For us, it's a daily thing.
It's every day, right?
This is Mammoth Daily
We're going to take you inside the locker room
with Mike Fulta.
We want this show to be about the fans, and we want this show to be driven by our Utah Mammoth community.
And Adrian Denny.
Fans can submit what they want to hear us talk about, what they want to hear Utah weigh in on. It's all going to be here.
Here's Mike and AD with you.
Utahns, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Right here on Mammoth Daily.
Hey everybody, welcome on in. How are you doing? Adrian Denny with you. Thanks for joining us for this Monday morning Power Play edition of Mammoth Daily. We have so much to cover. Mike's Morning After, we'll look back at yesterday against Chicago. We'll give you our top 5 stories of the week heading in to this 5-game road trip that starts tomorrow in Washington, D.C. on our Monday morning Power Play. And we'll tell you how good Utah has been in 3 of the 5 months this year. They've been a top 5 team for 3 of 5 months. We'll explain coming up in our third period. But first, I want to thank you for joining us wherever you're catching us here on this Monday Morning Power Play edition. Apple, Spotify for audio, the Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus and SEG Plus, wherever you're getting us. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Like, share, leave your comments. And we love hearing from you here on Mammoth Daily. Tomorrow, not to wish away Monday, but tomorrow is our Tuesday mailbag edition. So great time to get those questions in now. You can leave them in the YouTube comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at 801 Adrian Denny. As always, favorite show of the week. It's hearing from you in our Tuesday mailbag edition. Well, what was the difference from Friday to Sunday for the Mammoth? Friday, best game of the year, I think. Snapped Minnesota's 6-game winning streak. The Wild had gotten within 5 points of Colorado for the best record in the NHL. He had 5 players with multiple points, led by captain Clayton Keller. He had 3 points. Karel Vejmelka in the contest got his NHL leading 28th win. Mammoth played with pace. They used their strengths to their advantage to take away Minnesota's game. They were doing everything right. And then you get to Sunday, and I was surprised as you could possibly be with Sunday. I thought Utah would take that best game of the year and make it another great game. But that's why we play the games, and that's why hockey always gets you when you think you know everything. Chicago coming in on the back-to-back, having lost 8 of 9 games. And they were fighting it, and they came out and they took it to the Mammoth, and they did everything right. It wasn't just good first 5-10 minutes as I thought it might be after Utah weathered that storm, but the Hawks were able to take advantage of special teams, got a couple quick goals to make it 1-0 to 3-0, and all the credit to them for beating Utah, who looked like the best team in the NHL Friday night. Nobody would have beat the Mammoth on Friday to their worst game of the year. I don't think anybody would argue with that at all. We'll hear from head coach André. We'll hear from Mikhail Sergachev. Right now, though, let's hear from Mike and his morning after. Team hit the road immediately following the game. Here's Mike on his way to the airport.
All right, welcome into Mike's morning after following the 4-0 shutout loss at the hands of the Chicago Blackhawks. I am en route to the airport right after the game. I'm still seeing people walk out of the Delta Center. This is great. I was that quick getting out of the arena where we got to get to the plane quickly. We should talk about the winners first, because this is a podcast for winners. We should talk about the Chicago Blackhawks and give them credit, because I thought the Hawks had great pressure on the puck. I thought they had 100 times more urgency than what Utah had in this game today. Teuvo Teravainen gets a couple of goals. Bertuzzi was really good for them. I thought Bedard was good. Didn't necessarily take over the game, but fun for everybody to see a star like that at the Delta Center, because he's going to be one of the faces of the league for the next several years. But congrats to Arvid Soderblom, his first NHL shutout. He's the guy that I actually, I won't say worked with, but I call his games when he was in the AHL with Rockford. He was really good, really solid in Rockford in the American Hockey League. And I was always very high on him. And some of that is because I didn't know any better when I got to the AHL, I was like, oh yeah, all these guys are going to be great NHL players because if they're really good down here, of course they're going to be really good up there. That's not always the case. But I remember being at ice level for one of warm-ups or something like that for one of the games that Arvid started. And I can still feel the intensity radiating off of him as he hunched over, looked down at his skates, and then got up to get on the ice for the first time at warmups. And I remember thinking right there, oh, this guy, maybe he's not good enough right now in the AHL, but he has the intensity and the mindset to be an NHL player. He's been a number 2 goalie on a bad Blackhawks team for a few years now. Hasn't had great numbers, but he was good. He was good today. So congrats to him. It's heartfelt. Congrats to him. And the Blackhawks were much better. Okay, Rockford. I would argue the worst game I've seen from this team this year. And there's not a whole lot to dwell on. I'm not going to get into not going to call anybody out. I just think that's probably the worst I've seen this team. I mean, we talk about pace the last couple games, how we didn't have a lot of pace against Colorado, but then we had a lot of pace against Colorado or against Minnesota. Well, there was no pace. There was no urgency this afternoon. And maybe it was just kind of a little Sunday matinee game, little sleepy start, whatever it was, that was probably the worst game I've seen this year. And maybe going back through a lot of last year too. That was a dud. And it says a lot about this Utah team that having a -4 goal differential is the worst goal differential they've had this year. A lot of teams, even a lot of great teams, lose every once in a while by like 6 or 5 or 7 goals or however many. And the Mammoth haven't done that once this year. They still haven't. But that's a game where, you don't even look at the tape. You just burn it and move on. And we hear about that from players and staff members that throughout a year, over an 82-game schedule, you're going to have a few clunkers, right? Like the loss against Colorado was not a good game for Utah, but it wasn't like a total clunker. This was a clunker. This is one of those five games a year where it's Murphy's Law. Everything that goes wrong goes wrong. And that makes it sound like it was out of Utah's hands. So maybe I should rephrase that. But this is just one of those games where you flush it and you move on. Because every team, even the best teams, have a few of those this year. I think the Mammoth have had maybe 3 that I can think of. This game, their loss in Toronto was really bad. And their loss at Montreal was also really bad. Same road trip. But I can't think of many other just total, absolute clunkers. This was a clunker. But you get to start the road trip, and I think Bear sending a message is going to be impactful for this team. And when I say that, I'm talking about his lineup decisions throughout the game, especially like the one on the power play, right? If you didn't notice, Mammoth gave up a shorthanded goal in the third period. It was the first unit on the ice. They gave up a shorthanded goal. It was bad. But then Bear, instead of, throwing the first unit back out or even letting the second unit have a shift and throwing the first unit out after the second unit, he keeps the first unit strapped to the bench. And because when a goal is scored, there's a little delay, there's the celebration. It's like a mini timeout. So strategically, if you were a robot making decisions, you could argue that, okay, the first unit just gave up a shorthanded goal, but they're our best chance to score a goal. They should go right back out there. They're rested. They have a couple seconds to catch their legs. They can stay out there. Bear throws the second unit out off the next draw. No surprise there as we resume play. But then after that, he takes the power play off the ice completely. And he puts, I think it was McBain, Kerfoot, and Stenlund, so part of the fourth line. And then he puts Schmidt and Marino out there, who are not power play guys or have not been for us. And that's a message. That's a message to those top guys in the top unit saying, you're not going back out there. I don't care if we're on the power play right now. And there was still time left. I don't care if we're on the power play. You're not going back out there because we have a standard. We have a standard here, and it wasn't met in this game against the Blackhawks. So I admire Bear for trying to hold on to that standard and setting the tone. And I think that's going to help the Mammoth moving forward. And that's what this game, that's what I think about right now. Like I'm about to pull into the airport. We're moving forward. We're getting on the road trip. We're going. That game is one of those 4 to 6 clunkers that every team has a year. That was one of them right there. You can't do it again. And this has been a great bounce back team. So I think Tuesday in DC, I would imagine it's going to be, I would imagine that urgency, that tone, it gets established from the get-go. But I've talked enough while I'm driving. I better keep both eyes on the road here. And we'll see everybody on Tuesday. We'll talk to everybody from the nation's capital. The Mammoth look to get back on the winning path here.
Especially tough losing that game at home. Mammoth haven't had a lot of games this year where they've lost like that, haven't had a chance in the third period to do something. That was one of them. And when it happens at home, it's just the worst thing in the entire world. And the team felt it. Head coach André Tourigny was really upset that game happened on home ice. That's where you want to put on a show in front of the fans who are paying money for entertainment to go watch fun, who love you, who are thrilled to be there. It's the best thing in the world. Sunday afternoon at the Delta Center. You want to put on a show. You want to make them happy. And you got fans that are at every game that are listening to Mammoth Daily that are with us as we talk about the big scope of things and how well Utah's been playing. 13-6-1 in 2026, 11-5-1. Wrapping up that stretch of 13-17 home games at the Delta Center from January 7th until yesterday. So a loss is a loss, but for the casual fan, they watch that game and think you're the worst team in the NHL, and it's tough. The first time fan sees that. You don't want that to be the impression, and this team takes so much pride in playing at home and putting on a show in front of the fans, and the home record, as good as it is, Utah 18-10-2 at home, but that's not how they wanted to wrap up 31 straight days at home. But that's how it happened. And here's what Mikhail, Sergachev, and André Tourigny said after that contest on Sunday.
Tough performance, and our fans deserve better, a lot better than that. But, it just happens to everyone. We've been playing really good hockey lately, and we just got to get back to that. And through hard work, and we're going to do it.
That should never happen, kind of effort in front of our fans. So really disappointed about us, and it's all of us, starting by myself, and that cannot happen again.
It just was a bad game, right? Nothing went well for a Utah team that loses, for a team that loses to a team that's not in the top 6 in the NHL for the first time since January 3rd. The New Jersey Devils, the last non-top 6 NHL team to beat Utah. Until yesterday, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Dallas, Colorado. Utah in almost 2 months hadn't lost to a team that wasn't the NHL's top 6 elite, and that's what makes it so tough yesterday. The casual fan doesn't know that, right? They've heard so much about the team. They want to come out and see a great performance. Like Friday, heard about that game and just didn't get it. But, in the NHL, for me, there's 3 components that can make any team at least a 500 team. Good goaltending. Chicago got that on Sunday. Good coaching, a good game plan. Chicago played a great game. And then just being engaged, playing hard. And for the Mammoth, the game plan never changes, right? They know what they want to do to be successful. But it's execution. And what are the external factors that lead to a game like Sunday? And we had a fan on Hockey Night in Utah on the radio say, trade deadline rumor over the weekend. Elliot Friedman had a report that Utah was interested in a specific player. No Utah players were mentioned in terms of being traded, but a specific player on another team was mentioned. And I don't think as much as that, as the trade deadline's coming up on Friday, as the fact that you've been home for 31 straight days, 2 p.m. face-off on a Sunday. After the game, you're going to the airport. So you're frantically trying to pack a suitcase for 11 nights. You are saying goodbye to your family. You're trying to do the last bit of family time at the park, on the swing, walking your dog, taking your dog to the doggy daycare, and then race into the rink for a 2 p.m. game. So you get there 11:30, right? That to me is the external factor for Utah. And sometimes the change of pace is good. 31 straight days, a long time to be at home. And the Olympic break was in the middle of it, but 6-game homestand bookended that Olympic break. Now they're going on the road for 5 straight. Washington tomorrow, Philly Thursday, Columbus Saturday, Chicago a week from tonight, Tuesday. You got the Minnesota Wild. So I think it's a good time for the Mammoth to get on the road. They've been great at responding. It's not the first disappointing game they've had all year. Every team in the NHL has it. As I said, the 3 components: good goaltending, good game plan, and playing hard, playing to your game plan. That's how you have a chance to win every single night in the NHL. And Chicago did it on Sunday. They were able to pick up the victory against Utah. So good news is, I guess, you're not chasing anybody. You still got that 4-point lead above the playoff line in the Western Conference, 4 points above San Jose, LA, and the Nashville Predators. So you lose a game. It's how you respond. It's the segments that we talked about. It's 13-6-1 in 2026, 11-5-1 on this stretch of playing 13 of 17. What was the difference between Minnesota and Chicago? Guys were asked about it in the locker room, and let's hear what Mikhail Sergachev had to say.
We just felt connected against Minnesota. We were trying to get open for each other. We were working for each other in D-zone. When one guy got beat, the second guy would always be there to help. Today it just didn't feel like that, and throughout the whole game. So yeah.
Just was off. Didn't have it. Chicago brought it. 1 win in 9 games, and that's a team that first 6 weeks of the season was in a playoff spot. Then Connor Bedard got hurt. Wheels kind of fell off for him. Spencer Knight, one of the top goalies in the NHL in that stretch, and they just haven't been able to rekindle that. And they certainly did on Sunday. Chicago played a heck of a game. We mentioned that playoff race, and it's one loss, but head coach André says right here, you really can't afford any losses if you want to like where you're at.
We're serious about our business, and who's on the other side, we need 2 points every night, and we're in a hell of a race. That game we need to take that game and learn, and that has to hurt big time. So we make sure that doesn't happen again. If that's the purpose of that game, it is what it is. But there's no reason for us to play like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're beyond learning lessons here. You had a clunker, as Mike called it, and it's how you respond. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. That's where Utah is in the standings right now because of how they've responded to games like this so far through the season. And that's why you play games. Utah's won some games. Maybe we didn't expect him to. That tough one in Florida after falling in Tampa Bay, you could equate it to Chicago losing in Colorado, coming in here to Utah the next night when Utah wasn't on a back-to-back on the weekend. Monday morning power play, top 5 stories of the week coming up. We'll break it all down for you. And then we're going to do a little month by month and say, Mammoth, top 5 team when we take out November and December. We'll explain coming up. Monday morning power play edition right here on Mammoth Daily.
Get ready for the Monday morning power play.
Let's get to our top 5 stories of the week right here on Mammoth Daily, our Monday morning power play. And the number one thing is consistency. Going all the way back to training camp here on Mammoth Daily, that's the word we said we're probably going to use, and we certainly are. You look like the best team in the NHL Friday. On Sunday, no. But consistently playing that game from Friday is going to put you in a good spot going into the playoffs and give you a chance to win when you get into the playoffs. Because as we saw, watch some highlights for those of you on YouTube and Mammoth Plus at the start of the show. Minnesota, who won 6 in a row, beaten Colorado the night before, couldn't contend with the Mammoths. So that consistency from night to night is going to keep you where you want to be in the playoff race, and it's going to keep you winning games, because there's been games this year where you're like, boy, nobody could have beat Utah on that night. Minnesota, Detroit, going back on that 7-game homestand from January, 6-1 over Toronto, 7-2 against the Islanders. That 4-1 game you beat Detroit in December. You can go back this year and find some games like nobody could have beat Utah on that night. Mammoth were too good. And then game like Chicago, where they are in the standings is where they are, but you had higher expectations for that contest, and I thought they were going to be fine, because I thought, okay, they found it Friday. They got back and going. Veggie got it back and going, but wasn't to be. Number 2 on a Monday morning power play. This is the good news. Mammoth are 8-2 after a loss since mid-December. That's what we're talking about. You lose a game, but it's how you bounce back, and it's why they have the metrics that they do in going back to December. They lost that game to Boston. They beat Detroit the next game 4-1. They lost to New Jersey at home. They beat Winnipeg 4-3 in overtime the next game. They lost to Colorado. They lost to Nashville, but they started that trip with a 7-2 win against the Islanders. You can equate that Nashville game, that one game right after Christmas, you lost to the Predators, and then you went on the road, took 2 of 3. That's what the Mammoth are looking for on this 5-game road trip that started on Tuesday. You lost 2-0 in Tampa Bay. On the back-to-back, you beat Florida. You lost to Carolina, lost to Dallas, but then you beat Vancouver 6-2. You lost 4-2 to Colorado. You beat Minnesota 5-2. It's the quick reset, the quick response. In the National Hockey League, things move so fast. You don't have time to dwell. You don't have time to think. Mammoth lost this game on Sunday, went straight to the airport there in Washington. They've moved on. You gotta pick up, and there's so many different people involved in the success of the team, and everybody's got a job. And you go out, you play a game, whether you win it or lose it, same thing in the routine, getting to the next city, getting to the next day of practice. And that's just the consistency we're talking about. But 8-2 after a loss, that's why you are where you are in the standings, and why you want to keep responding well after games like Sunday night. Number 3, the depth. Utah calling on their depth over the weekend. Ole Mata playing for the first time since December 16th. That's a guy that's played almost 800 NHL games, third most on the team, but Nick DeSimone's been good. He's kept that right D shot, that right D spot on the third pairing for Utah. But Ole Mata coming in off of winning that bronze medal for Finland, the momentum that came with that, the coaches wanted to get him in. They found an opportunity on Friday, and that's another guy. You need all the characters on your roster in a successful run. Liam O'Brien, Brandon Tanev not in the lineup over the weekend, but you got Nick DeSimone and Ole Mata popping him back in. And when you have a game like Sunday, coaches are going to be watching the video over and over again. And if there's something they didn't like, they've got Brandon Tanev and Liam O'Brien that they can pop in, and they've got Ole Mata in right now, but they've also got Nick DeSimone. They can pop in for anybody. So you have a game like that, nobody's safe to stay in the lineup the next day, and that's why it's so big for the Mammoth to have the depth that they have, because Mata doesn't play it over 2 months. You call on him, you win that game 5-2 against Minnesota. Didn't play a lot of ice time, but that's still a veteran, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, 2-time bronze medalist with Finland that you like, and helps you win. Number 4, let's get to a couple different things, but they help you win at this time of year and going into the playoffs, and they're huge. Face-offs. Utah has gone from the 28th best team in the NHL in October in the faceoff circle to 24th in November to 16th in December to 13th in January to 3rd in February. And on Sunday against Chicago, they won 66.1% of their draws. You get guys like Alexander Kerfoot back in the lineup in that faceoff dot. 6 natural centermen dressing for Utah Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That's why that percentage is what it is. Faceoffs get you the puck. When you have the puck, they don't. It's just so simple. And the power play was 4 for 13 going into Sunday. A power play that was 3 for the last 33. You could start to feel the power play clicking. We talked about it on the Thursday episode. Quick strikes and rolling there for the Mammoth. And the number 5 thing on a Monday morning power play, trade deadline coming up. It's at 1 p.m. Mountain Time on Friday. Are the Mammoth going to see a deal they like? They can add a piece or two. Bill Armstrong, his group, John Ferguson and David Ludwig, his assistant GMs, are looking at every option, taking every call, making every call. And if they see an opportunity to improve the hockey club without mortgaging any kind of the future, they're certainly going to make a move, because we've been talking about it since the season ended last year. Playoffs this year. Playoffs is the expectation, and the Mammoth are in a playoff spot right now. That is your Monday morning power play. We're going to come back and talk about how Utah could be a top 5 team right now in the NHL. What months could they subtract? This is good. This is impressive. We'll get to it coming up in our third period right here on Mammoth Daily.
This is Mammoth Daily.
Back here on Mammoth Daily, and the Mammoth got off to that great start. And then November, December, bit of a struggle, but then got things going in January and February. In October, tied for the 3rd best record in the NHL, a 727 points percentage. Then November, December, a 397 points percentage. But back at it in January with a 700 points percentage, 4th in the NHL, tied for the 5th best points percentage in the NHL in February at 750. They lose the first game of March on Sunday, but in 3 of the 5 months this year, the Mammoth have been a top 5 team. November and December, bit of a struggle. Lost those first 3 games without Logan Cooley, and then rebounded to go 16-8 and 4 the rest of the way without Logan in the lineup. And the schedule was what it was. All those road games piling up, most games in the NHL. But once they kind of got out of that, seen top 5 team in the NHL since the first of the year, and they started out as a top 3 team in October. Again, everybody goes through it, but the schedule, as we told you, November, December was tough, but they're the spot that they want to be in right now, going in to this 5-game trip and starting to get things rolling here during the month of March. 14 more games left in March, 8 games in April, and then on to the playoffs for the Mammoth. Utah now, by the way, has played 30 games at home, 30 games on the road. So for the first time since October, back even in terms of home games and road games played. Now they've got a 5-game road trip that they're starting, and then we'll have a +5 on home games when they get back a week from Thursday. So we've got our Monday morning power play edition just about in the books. Our Tuesday mailbag coming up on Wednesday. President of Hockey Operations Chris Armstrong will join us. Thursday, Dom Moore will join us on our expert series and talk about what's it like being a player the week at the trade deadline. We'll get Dom's insight there. He was traded a couple times. He's got a story and a half about being traded right before a game started to the team his team was going to play. So that's Thursday with Dom Moore. Mike and I will have the trade deadline covered for you, efforting some special guests. We expect to have one in the third period on Tuesday to give us kind of a trade deadline primer from his perspective. So Sunday in the books, teams moved on. They've got a day in DC to get settled for the 5 p.m. face-off coming up on Tuesday night against the Caps. It's the third of 9 straight games against teams that the Mammoth are 500 or better against. Started off with Minnesota, Chicago, who they're 0-2 against, but they're going to see twice in the next 10 days to make that right. 1-1 against Washington, 3-0 against Philly, 2-0-1 against Columbus. Then you got Chicago, then you got Minnesota, and then you got Chicago again, followed by Pittsburgh. So the Mammoth looking to make some headway, taking advantage of teams they played well against. But as we saw, as we know, you got to come out and you got to do it every single night. Folks, thanks for joining us on this Monday edition of Mammoth Daily. We're with you Monday through Friday for at least a half hour here, wherever you get your podcasts. Have a good rest of the Monday, and we'll talk to you for the Tuesday mailbag edition right here on Mammoth Daily.